Our first question is to write this grow function, which takes in a list that describes a binary tree and an index which by default is 0, and then it returns that binary tree. When the question is to fill in code, I think the best thing to do is write what has to exist first, and then work on the rest of the code, rather than going line by line. Remember that trees are inherently recursive structures. That means that functions dealing with them are most likely going to have code for the base case and the recursive case. And a pattern that you might have noticed by now is that the first bit of code is always the base case. Because of that, you should instinctually know by now that we'd be returning the simplest kind of tree structure we can, or btree.empty. And remember that we need to return a tree, so putting something like none here wouldn't be valid. Now, it might make sense for us to start at the return statement. We know that we're going to have to return a binary tree, and the value we need to fill in is just the root. And we know that for any list that describes a binary tree, the 0th element is just going to be the root. So we'll write si here. Why not so? Well, because this generalizes the function, and this kind of flexibility allows us to reference the code in itself, if that makes sense. Speaking of which, you'll notice that we reference the variables left and right in both these places. Because we know the structure of binary trees, we know that left and right need to be binary trees as well. We can do something like be explicit about the subtrees, but that's not really as flexible as we'd like. Instead, we're going to call grow in these spaces. So what do we call grow on? Let's pass in our original list so we don't overcomplicate things. The question now is what we pass into as our index. Well, we know that grow is going to return a binary tree with the ith element as its root. That's what we wrote in the return statement. So we'll pass in 2 times I plus 1 and 2 times I plus 2 respectively. Hopefully with your understanding of lists and binary trees, you can see why. Now we're done. On to the next question.